you the story of my friend as I finish. I have a friend. She was with me till last week Saturday. She went back to America. She had come. It was my father's memorial service because he died during the COVID period. And so we had to wait we buried him, but we had to wait for a year to celebrate him, and he deserved to be celebrated. But I remember, this is my very smart, sharp, when we were younger, very fancy dress, young, beautiful woman, went to Ivy League University in America, everything. Came back to Nigeria, met this guy, fell in love, but fell into trouble with the love. Because this guy she loved her to obsession, which was more like destruction. It's true. Was threatened by anything and always wanted her locked up at home. No work, no financial independence. This very sharp, smart young woman, every time I looked at her, tears would fall in my eyes. Maybe she was making some bed sheet in the house, would beat nonsense out of her. Yes, because I remember one day, I still have a factory in Punch Compound. She came to see me in the factory with her 2 children. And at the sight of her, I just started crying because he had beaten her to nonsense. One day he beat her, she passed out. He was afraid she had died. But she came around. But with all this trouble that he gave her, would not let her work, would not do anything. At 34, not older, they were both 34. This guy goes to have leukemia. This same wife that he almost killed is the one who took care of him, would sleep literally on the floor at Luth beside him, watching him, and he died. But he died leaving 2 children who were going to expensive schools in GRA, and a wife that he himself had made incapacitated. And to top his wickedness, in his work, he worked in one of the major oil companies. In where he worked, next of kin, his brother. Real life stories, not a tale. Next of kin, his brother. The children were like 5 and 7, or 2.5. No, 2.5 and like 5. They were real kids, or 2.5 and 7, or something like that, when he passed. Meanwhile, he had left his wife economically incapable. His benefit at work, next of kin, was brother, and the value was to be locked up until the children were 21. Just in case she went to marry somebody else, she would not have access. Who will take care of his children? Sometimes when you think you want to do somebody, you do yourself. I'm just telling you stories, real life story, so that you will not allow foolishness to abound in your heart. And at the end of the day, you will work for nothing because you have not tidied up. My friend, we had to think very quickly on our feet after the guy died about how to help her find her way forward. Anyway, she organized herself and moved to America because that's where she knew, that's where she went to school. She could start all over again because she'd been back to Nigeria from her 20s and she'd never actually settled into work because her husband would not let her work. So she went to America and lives there till now, went back to school, did a master's, she has PhD now, and is involved in the education sector. Her children have done well, and she's refused to marry. But God has kept her. What if she couldn't move forward? My brothers and my sisters, God is a perfect God. His plans are meant to work. They are set up to work. He has used us to balance one another. Don't create imbalance for yourself. by following systems that work against the purpose of God. There's a gift in your spouse, male or female. Let that gift, let it serve God. And as that gift serves God, it will serve you. Let the gift. You asked me to come here today. Well, I have a husband too. What if my husband says, you can't go anywhere on a Sunday? You cannot go and speak anywhere. What if my husband, since we got married 30 years ago, says, well, you can't do more than selling some small things in the house? You would never know Ebukwa Oshika. She will never have a voice to share. She will never know the things that she knows. In between all of that, I've been to school countless times. I remember when I had our last son. I was 37, 38? When I had our last son. Before I found out I was pregnant, I just told my husband, look, I want to go back to school to take an MBA. And he was like, okay. As I started preparing to take the GMAT, we found out I was pregnant. My husband said, okay, let's forget that for now. So we did. Shebi is 9 months project. Not a problem. Once I had the baby, I said, okay, baby out. Can I go to business school now? He said, okay. He knows that we're better off letting me go. Because when your wife is at peace, you are at peace. So, it's me that had to pay the price. With a baby in hand, I had to start studying to take my GMAT. I took the GMAT, I passed. I was admitted into ESE Business School in Barcelona, Spain. As I now, I've been serving on the board of ESE Business School for the last 5 years. If I never went there, that would probably not be part of my portfolio. So God has a plan for every step in your life. My baby was 6 months when I started school, 18 months of school in Spain. How could I have done that without a husband who loved me enough to know that whatever I wanted to do in order to improve my capacity to build my business forward was in our interest? And he allowed me. Because it meant the children were at home with him, even though we had the staff. But he had to be the primary parent whilst I was away. And I've gone to school multiple times. So supporting one another cannot be against you. And by the time I started all my corporate career, when they ask for your CV, what will be there? So all the knowledge that served me in serving in all the places that I've served and that I still serve were under the watch of my husband as my husband. And the grace and the encouragement to be. I've said too much. I leave you guys to go home and go and discuss. Spend a little time to discuss your scenario. I am serious. Check where you want to be as the woman. Check where you are now. Determine the gaps. Check where you want to be as the man. Check where you are now. Determine the gaps. Then decide what must I do to help me get to where I want to go. Both sides. And then sit together and discuss it and work a strategy to help one another to be the best of yourselves. There's nothing more incredible than a team that works. And the power that God has hidden in a married couple cannot be beaten. And when you have, people think that two successful people cannot live in the same house. That's why people can talk rubbish. Because they think, oh, you're a successful woman, then your husband must be a nobody. It's foolishness and lack of knowledge. So if someone is wondering how I can build a house, I built my first 4-story building, office building for the Chess Center in my 30s. I built my first major factory on Eleko Road at 42. I've lived in a 1,300 square meter house in Lekki. We moved in for my 40th birthday between my husband and I. So I've been running a manufacturing group for 32 years that is still running. And I've employed I don't know how many people and added value to the economy of this country with the support and encouragement of my husband. I have been a forerunner of many industries. When you walk through any bank and you see those bulletproof security doors, that's me. Yes, I introduced that into Nigeria 26 years ago, in my early 30s. And for 10 years, we were a monopoly, the only company that sold it in this country. And continue to be the best in what we do. It's not in the making of the noise. So when people decide to be mischievous, don't help them. Don't. Why? Because the judgment of God consumes the judgment of men. Don't be a part of their judgment. Wait and see if there's God. And we will see.